Hi, I'm Ken Stiles, the Pragmatic Professor, here to provide insights and advice based on my 35 years of college teaching. Now, most of my videos are aimed at college students, whereas this one and a few others are aimed at college faculty. Sometimes you don't get the best of advice when you're in grad school or from your peers, so I'm here to hopefully supplement some of that. Today we'll be talking about publishing books. Okay, it's an intimidating prospect for a lot of folks, but it's actually not as hard as it looks. One of the great things about book publishing, and I've published a number of them myself, is that it's a very transparent process. You can approach an editor with an idea long before you've actually started the research and get a sense of whether there's a market for this. Okay. Also, the reviewers usually know who you are, which can be good and bad, but usually it's a pretty good thing. Sometimes you'll even find out eventually who the reviewers were. And so, in general terms, there's less stress involved. Okay? At the very least, for any publisher, you want to be prepared with a prospectus. You want to go to the publisher's website and find out all of the information that they're looking for. Usually it has to do with the argument that you're making, the evidence you're providing, some of the findings you have, as well as how it compares with other books in that particular niche and whether there's a market for it. You'll also want to make sure to start writing, usually the introductory chapter and then maybe 2 or 3 other chapters from the middle of the book. So maybe about a third or half of the book should be in hand before you start getting serious about talking to publishers. And in fact, if you're talking to an academic publisher, a university press, plan to have the book basically done by the time you start getting serious about talking to editors. Most academic presses don't look at partial manuscripts. Commercial presses, on the other hand, no problem, right? They're used to looking at samples and prospecti and that sort of thing. One thing you need to understand is that for the commercial press, the key question is going to be, is there a market for this? They are a private business, they're motivated by profit, and so they want to know that they're going to be able to sell, I don't know, 5,000 to 6,000 copies of this book at least, or else it won't be worth their time. On the other hand, academic presses, it's a little different thing. You can go into working with an academic press in order to build your career. It's the kind of thing that will help you get a job or get job security or promotions and that sort of thing. Don't expect to make a lot of money off of an academic press book. On the other hand, with a commercial press book, you might make some money, might even get some notoriety. Okay. Now, for an academic press book, the only criterion that really matters is whether the book is good. This will be sent out for external reviewers, usually some of the best people in the discipline, and they're going to be looking very closely at your argument, your evidence, how you package it all, the quality of your writing, and so forth. It's got to be just a really good book. So, as a result, going for an academic press is a little bit riskier. Again, you usually have to have a completed manuscript, and you're subject to the uncertainties of working with blind reviewers. The other problem with an academic press, it takes forever. Okay, most of the time, from start to finish, from the prospectus and the manuscript being submitted to the book actually being in hand, is 2 to 3 years. So, in general terms, I discourage untenured people from working with academic presses. This is the kind of thing you want to do after you have tenure. Okay. Commercial presses mostly publish textbooks and what they hope will be bestsellers. Okay. Textbooks are not academic books, and it's important that you not spend a lot of time, again, as an untenured professor, trying to get a textbook out. Most of the time that is not going to help your job security or your career. On the other hand, it may supplement a meager income, so it might be worth it in that sense. But just make sure this isn't your principal strategy, okay? Because they're basically repackaging material and organizing it for students, they're not really considered cutting-edge contributions to the literature. There are a few exceptions, but not a lot. The key thing on a textbook then is trying to write something that will help students get a handle on a field, on a discipline. You have to imagine the courses that are being taught and organize the text in such a way that a faculty member can easily pull that text into her course and not have to make a lot of adjustments. So it should be easy for the students to read, pitched at about a high school senior level for the most part. It should be very clear, very well organized, with lots of headers and other signposts. And most textbooks these days have lots of supplemental material, online resources, websites, test banks, bells and whistles, right? Lots of maps and graphs and charts and diagrams and pictures and things like that. Ultimately, what you're hoping to do with a textbook is persuade a faculty member somewhere to order your book for the class. And so even though the market, I guess technically would be the students, they're the ones actually buying the book, they're not going to be making that choice from nothing. They're going to be buying that book because the professor ordered it. So in some ways your real market is the professor. You're trying to imagine what the professor thinks will be best for her students and go with that direction. If you're successful, be forewarned that writing a textbook is kind of like starting a business. Most of the time, editors don't want just one edition of a textbook. They're going to be looking for 5 or 6 or 7 editions, which means every 2 or 3 years you're going to be rewriting a big chunk of that textbook. So imagine how much effort you put into the first edition, and then take that number and divide it by about 3. And imagine you're going to be doing a third of that work every couple of years. It's a commitment, right? It's a long-term commitment. So there again, decide whether this is the train that you want to ride, okay? Bestsellers, I confess I don't know a whole lot about these. Generally speaking, they're marketed for a mass audience. They usually don't include a lot of cutting-edge literature, a lot of theory or analytical material. It's a lot of description for the most part, geared for aiming at repackaging what scholars have found. This is one of the reasons why journalists are often very good at this. You don't have to be, you don't have to have a PhD to write a bestseller by any means. But you do have to know the literature, and you have to be able to think through what people want to learn, what will be useful for them. Anyway, once you get the book out, be aware that a lot of book publishers don't do a very good job of marketing their books. Some publishers are so small, they only have a few items, but they don't have much of a marketing budget. Other big publishers with a big marketing budget have so many titles that yours will probably get lost in the shuffle. So you're going to have to do some of the marketing yourself. I've seen some people that actually include their latest book in their email signature. That's one technique. You can also create a website and send out mass emails, enter the book into competitions in the hope that it will win an award. But yeah, don't assume that once you've written the book and it's been published that it'll just take off. It usually doesn't work that way. But I find book publishing very rewarding. One of the great things about it is that you usually don't have to edit yourself too much. If you have an idea that's complicated and difficult and takes time to explore and explain, a book is a great place to do that. Again, the transparency is a great feature of book publishing, and there's something significant about it. It's a great way to get promoted to full professor. If your dissertation is already basically in book style, and you've talked to editors and they've given you a lot of encouragement, then I could see going forward with the book before you have tenure. But like I said, that's a risky proposition. At any rate, I hope this advice was helpful. This is Ken Stiles, the Pragmatic Professor, wishing you all the best. So thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful to you. Make sure to comment and like and share and watch for other videos. And of course, the views expressed are my own and not necessarily those of any institutions with which I've been affiliated over the years. Take care. Bye-bye.